So what is new in the world of health and fitness this week? Something a little bit new just to bring you some of the stories in the news this week that have piqued my interest and that I think might be of interest to you. You may or may not know that I am a trained journalist, and it's been a while since I really trained those journalism muscles. I have written articles for magazines and newspapers and online, but I thought it was time, a bit like I might train my muscles in the gym, to train those journalism muscles. So here I am. And my plan is each week to bring you some of the hottest stories in health and fitness. Today's headlines are how you can get fit and strong in just 5 minutes of exercise every day and how scientists think this might be one of the best ways to train, why walking backwards is so good for your health, why you should do it and how you should do it, how to boost your brain health in 12 weeks. And let's go with that first story, which I actually spotted in the Times, written by Peter B, and it was the writing up of some research found by exercise scientists at the Edith Cowan University in Australia. What they discovered was a bunch of test subjects, and they got them to focus on the eccentric phase of strength and conditioning exercises. And if you're not sure what that is when let's say you're doing a squat, the bit where you lower down rather than the push. Same with a push-up. It's the bit where you're lowering down rather than the push. And if you're not sure, I've created a little short just to illustrate this point. And what they found was that the participants that focused more on the eccentric phase of the exercises actually had more muscle adaptation than those that didn't. The conclusion was that this would be really beneficial for people to do. They didn't have to train for as long to get results, but what they really recommended was that people train for 5 minutes every day, and that was to really ensure adherence to any program and to make it a habit. So the science behind it is that the muscles work just as hard, if not harder, during the eccentric phase of that exercise. Why is it important to you? Well, because it means that in this ever increasing need for faster workouts in shorter times with less effort to get the same results, then this could be of benefit to you, right? But reading behind the science, you want to make sure that you have full range of movement in all exercises, and you want to focus not just on muscle strength, but also on getting your joints moving, on bone health. So I think it's great. It's shown another benefit of a different way of doing strength and conditioning exercises. What this study found was a way of making sure that people could adhere to the program and do the exercises consistently. I also wonder whether, because they were doing the exercises in a slightly different way, their brains had to really focus on what they were doing. And one of the things the study found was that this type of exercise was also very good for your brain health. So I do wonder whether it was something to do with that, because you were having to think about how you were doing the exercise, so be more conscious of taking more time over that eccentric phase, that perhaps that had more cognitive benefits. But I would say takeaways for everyone from this study are: make sure you mix up your training so you're not just doing the same thing every time, and that can be mixing up your tempo as well as mixing up your exercises. Try and find a way of making the exercise that you do a habit, so it's something that you can do consistently. And of course, you don't have to do 30 or 40 minutes. This showed that 5 minutes every day was enough to have some benefit, which I think is brilliant actually. So rather than shying away from it, thinking, well, I don't have the time, how could you build those little snack-sized bits of exercise into your day? So walking backwards is good for your health. I love this. And actually, if you are in your 60s and you've ever done a class with me or worked one-to-one with me, the chances are at some point you will have been walking backwards. It is really important for balance. It's a great balance exercise. When I program a class or a program, I'm always thinking about how my client is moving and making sure they're moving in what we call all planes of movement. So side to side, twisting, forwards and backwards. Backwards is a key part of that, forwards and backwards, right? So quite often we walk forwards. Walking backwards is, again, going to be more of a cognitive challenge, because you've got to think about how you're doing it, but also think about the effects of that on your body. Brilliant for your knees. It creates more of that balance through your body in terms of how you're training. So if you wanted to add a bit of extra backwards walking into your life, then you don't necessarily need to go for a backwards walk. You could just walk forwards and backwards up your lounge. I love doing a heel toe walk where you literally let your heel come to your toe in a straight line as if you're walking on a tightrope. You could do backwards lunges, backward stepping lunges instead of regular forward stepping lunges. You could do step ups on one step, so where you step up and back, there's the back, and then turn your back to the step and do step back and forwards. Again, incorporating some backwards movement into your program. And then the third article I read this week that I really loved was just a nice summary of how exercise is good for your brain health. It was in Prevention magazine. It was how to boost your brain health in 12 weeks. And a lot of the ideas in this were to do with movement and exercise. And it went into how there's the cardiovascular benefit of exercise. That's brilliant for your heart health. But also if you think about blood circulation around an organ in your body, it's brilliant. Think about all those little bits of plaque that are stuck in your brain and you want to swish them around. That's my very unscientific, but I think that makes sense, way of explaining it. Brilliant for your nervous system because you're learning new skills, you're learning new things. So any type of exercise where it's not just something you don't have to think about, but something that you have to be a little bit more conscious about. Pilates is brilliant because you're learning a skill. You happen to be very conscious about the way you move. So I really would recommend you take a little look at that study, which I'm going to share in the comments. I've also shared 2 of my 2-minute motivators from last year in which I spoke about the benefits of exercise for your brain and also specific types of exercise that can make you smarter. It's one of my favorite topics, exercise and brain health, because we don't talk about it enough, but actually when you get older, it's probably the thing that a lot of people worry about the most, is making sure they look after that brain health. And don't forget that if you lose muscle mass as you get older, you tend to be losing brain size as well. So we want to boost your muscle mass, boost your brain size. No one wants a brain that's atrophied and got like walnut size. So keep it going. Thank you for joining me today. Do take a look at those articles. I think they're fascinating. And if you found a little nugget of information this week that you found useful, let me know, because I love to read new health and fitness stories and see what's out there. And if you enjoyed my little roundup, I would love to meet you next week. Same place, same time. Take care.